The Lloydminster Public School Division has seen big changes over the past year. Now to discuss what they are, Lauren Pullen sat down with LPSD Education Director Michael Diachuk.
It has been a year of growth and change for the Lloydminster Public School Division, and right now I'm joined by the Director of Education, Dr. Michael Diachuk. Thanks very much for joining me. And we're going to talk a little bit about what that change has looked like over the past calendar year. One of the big things in the Public School Division has been the construction of a new school, College Park. You want to tell us about that?
Well, we're excited. The construction process actually got underway in July, and working with two provinces that has created a bit of a challenge in terms of making sure everybody was on the same page, but that K-9 school has begun. We have the screw piles are in, the foundations for the beams are mostly in, and we anticipate this week some of the steel going up. So once that process begins, some of the metal will be on the flooring for the second story and moving to the second story. So that will all begin to really be put into place. So we should see something probably by the end of this week here, some steel going up. We have a staff member who lives across the street. She provides me sort of some daily updates to see where things are at, and will let me know, she said, the instant some of the steel goes up.
And the school itself is pretty phenomenal. It has some things that schools around our region don't have, for sure. Do you want to explain some of those?
Well, the K-9 school really had a lot of input and from parents as well as kids, and one of the pieces we heard from the students was that they wanted kind of a school in the park setting, if you like. So we're building on a lot of the natural features that exist currently on that site. In addition, there is a phenomenal amount of natural light. There isn't a classroom in the building that doesn't have natural light access for each of the rooms. Some of the corporate partnerships that we have announced, including Synergy, it will provide the observatory, which will be on top of the building. It'll be one of the few in Western Canada, and I think the only one in terms of a public school setting. So we're hoping that will build once the community is, again, becoming involved in that process. But the school overall should be state-of-the-art. It'll have the Silver LEED standard, and I think will be a real exciting place for kids to be.
We're definitely all looking forward to it. And another big step forward for the Public School Division this year is an after-school program, after-school care program, the Odyssey program.
Yeah, we partnered with the Lloydminster Day Home Association, and Jackie Bertelson worked with us to really put the whole program in place, and I think it's really served the need that exists across the city. We've seen trends in the last, I think, about 5 years where there's a reduced number of licenses being issued for day homes. Childcare has been become pretty pricey and pretty sparse, if you like, and in some instances parents are having to buy a whole day of service even though they only need some care for a couple of hours. So this really is able to provide that niche and need for those parents that are working till 6, need childcare, and really what it does do is it has kids in a safe spot where they're doing things productive, and they're in a school environment, and the parents pick them up, so they're not latchkey, they're not at home alone, not getting into mischief, whatever, if you like. And I think the service provided by the Lloyd Day Home is phenomenal. It's a great program for our community.
And another step forward, like needing programs like this, just the student growth that we've seen this year and years previous, we've seen nothing but numbers go higher.
Well, I think across the city, when you look at the 2011 census, what we've seen is that category or group of kids in the 0 to 4 category. I think it's 350 to 400 kids more compared to the next cohort of 5 years. And we've seen that as a trend in the cycle before as well in the census. So we know that when you look at kids that will be kindergarten to about grade 4, that group will have about 350 more kids in the building within the next 5 years. So that means, if you look back over the last sets of data, that really about every 5 years we need to be adding about one elementary school into the system, because that about 350 kids coming in really translates into a small elementary school. So that kind of captures, if you like, that sense of growth. I mean, people paying attention to the birth rate will see it's 1,000, 1,100 thereabouts, and the average age is 31 years of age within our community. So we're seeing the pressures around kindergarten, grade 1, 2, where those grades, there's growth and continues to be growth.
And lots to talk about in the past, but what do we have to look forward to in the future for the next calendar year, Doctor?
Well, some exciting things, and one of the things we tried to do is tap into teacher passion, because a lot of our teachers are saying, you're working as hard, we're doing our best, and you know what, we have some exciting things, and we've really been trying to just gear in on the curriculum and focus on that literacy and numeracy. And so we put an ask out there and said, you know what, you have passion areas. When you're in school, when you're going to school, what was it that really hooked you into school, engaged you? and maybe you'd like to try some projects. So we put a call out, we parked some money aside. So we have at Queen Elizabeth, there's a whole fitness program that's going to be tied to data collection, monitoring, developing physical fitness activities in the classroom. We have rocks, minerals, erosion programs where kids are at Queen Elizabeth will create a DVD, pictures, and it'll culminate in an activity in the spring where they'll spend the night in the Terrell Museum. As I was sharing with you earlier, there's one student who can't sleep because he's so excited he's going to be sleeping in a museum.
That's amazing.
At our comprehensive high school, we've created a robotics program. They will be competing in Saskatoon, Edmonton, and eventually that will translate into participation in Skills Canada. We have a video filmmaking program over at Bishop Lloyd with Derek Highland. He started off in grade 6 and shared his story where his teacher said, hey, you want to make a video? He now has a video company and is engaged in that. Cultural Arts at ES Laird, which will engage the First Nations community as well. So there's these projects and programs, if you like, where that teacher passion, I think what it does do is kindle that energy with kids.
Lots of interesting things to look forward to.
You bet.
Thanks very much for joining me. That is Dr. Diachuk with the Lloydminster Public School Division.
2012 was another busy year for Bonnyville, Cold Lake, MLA, Genya, Leskiw. Now, it began with a major funding announcement for senior housing in the Lakeland, followed by her re-election in the Alberta provincial election. Clayton Brown sat down and talked to Leskiw about the past year and what's ahead for her constituency.
2012 began with the proposal of a 3-phase project to solve the senior housing crisis in the constituency. Then in February, Leskiw and the provincial government made a $10 million funding announcement for Phase 1.
It's something we've been working on for a long, long time to get it. So the first announcement that we got the $10 million was a relief. We figured, fine, great, we're in good hands to start the first phase of expansions and renovations of the lodge. And it's not just the lodge, it's also senior housing that's connected to the lodge. And so that was great, great news.
But the Lakeland Housing Society soon found out Phase 1 would cost $3 million more than anticipated and waited on pins and needles, hoping the government would kick in the extra money.
When the bids came in, it was $3 million over the original estimate. So we had to go back to the drawing boards to see if we can find $3 million more. And we did, because the government believed that the project was worthwhile. It wasn't Lakeland Housing's fault that it was $3 million over. It was what it was. And so therefore, it was on the books, and we knew it had to go through.
Shortly after, the Alberta provincial election was in the forefront, and Leskiw was running for her second term.
It was an exciting election. Definitely was a lot harder in 2012 than it was in 2008. The great news about 2012, we had double the amount of people coming out to vote. That's great news. To go from 28% to over 50%, the constituent voting, that really warms my heart. And some areas were close, some areas were not as close, but it was a close race. And it was great for democracy.
Despite being re-elected, the victory was bittersweet for Leskiw, as down the road close friend and mentor Ray Daniluk was defeated in her neighboring constituency.
He was a great neighbor, a great friend, a great mentor. He was like going to your big brother for advice. He was always there when I needed him, and he believed in his constituents. He believed in Alberta. And that's the kind of guy he was. He was the big bear who fought for every turn of the way for the people that he represented. And he's a great loss. He's a great loss for the province.
As the year neared its end, the water quality concerns in Bonnyville resurfaced after talks had cooled off, as some residents began to apply the heat.
Bonnyville has always wanted to connect to Cold Lake water. The province favors for regional water system. It does favor it, but it's a municipal issue. The town of Bonnyville and the city of Cold Lake are going to have to resolve their differences.
Despite it being a municipal issue, Leskiw says she's looking into the concerns to see what she is able to do.
I'm hoping that maybe in January or early in the new year I can bring people from the Department of Environment and SRD to come and maybe have an open workshop or an open house so that people can ask the experts all the questions. Because right now there's a lot of misconceptions out there about the water and what is and what isn't, and that needs to be cleared up. I think once people get the whole story and the scientific version of that, maybe they'll have a different view.
In Bonnyville, Clayton Brown, Newcap News.